shall project your comments. Allow me to call on, I'm skipping on the program just a bit to bring in a very important segment as presented by Madame Grace and even Madame Nadia Awakas, to bring in these two people. That is presentation on persons with a disability. And I'll call on Madame Susan Kitum to come and present. Madam Susan, you have the floor. Madam Susan, you have the floor. Please come. You know, it came out very clearly that we are missing the persons with the disabilities, and even the Chief Administrative Secretary did say that it has come out from the last week's meeting and day before yesterday. So we want to just give them 5 minutes each so that you also listen to them. It's very important. And then after that, we shall call on Gideon Mwakima to come also and share before we bring in also a very important segment. Please, you have the floor. Thank you. They have 5 minutes each, unless. If we can do 3 minutes, the better. If we can do 3 minutes, the better, and then we call in Gideon. No, it's because of this. Yeah.
Good afternoon. All protocols observed. My name is Linda Lutukai, and I work in an organization known as Sikia Sasa Designs Limited. Okay. So Sikia Sasa Designs Limited is an organization that began with the main aim of supporting deaf women. So most of the deaf women are single mothers, orphans. Most of them come from the rural area. And we were able to set up a workshop and bring them in, teach them how to make jewelry, and also find connections abroad and export our jewelry. So right now, Joyce is passing around some of the jewelry that we make. We package it, and we are able to export and sell locally. So for today, I brought my two colleagues, Susan and Irene. They'll introduce themselves further and tell you what they do, as well as the challenges that they face. Thank you. Sorry. Hello, everyone. My name is Susan, and that's my sign name. I'm the lead artisan in Sikia Sasa Designs Limited. I thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. I was really shocked to be given the information, but I'm really happy and motivated. First of all, I want to talk about our team. We are only 6 artisans, and sometimes we need to encourage them because deaf women have so many challenges. We also look for ways to make new designs, to be able to improve our life. So we need a lot of help. Right now, many deaf people have so many challenges. I've seen so many people going through so many challenges. We accept our challenges. We are learning how to cope. Yeah, because we know how to use our hands. We cannot hear, we cannot speak. So we use our hands, we accept our situation, we encourage ourselves. Some of our parents encourage us. Some people in the society encourage us. So there are two ways to this. There's the positive part, there's the negative part. Sometimes we go through so much. So many people in the society are not able to communicate with us because of the language barrier. At first, I was not able even to buy something from the shop. And even during the COVID period, it was even more challenging. We have too many challenges. So thank you so much. Yes, on the other side. Okay, good afternoon, or is it lunch break? Which is it? Is it good afternoon? Good afternoon, good afternoon. Okay. All of you are watching me, are a bit motivated, a bit shy. My name is Irene Achieng, and I'm an artisan at Sikiasasa Designs Limited. We work together. Linda is the interpreter, me. So I'll help to interpret. I am fully deaf. Why I have come is to really explain the challenges that we face, especially during this COVID period. We've had so many challenges, especially now at work. We had a workshop, but now we don't have a workshop anymore. We are not comfortable anymore. Sometimes we have to pay our rent. Where is the money? Sometimes we are not able to pay rent for even 3 months because we face so many challenges. Our families are not able to communicate with us so deeply. So we can only maybe look for help from the hearing. From the deaf, it's not so easy to get help from them. So there's a lot of negativity, not so much positivity. So we fight for ourselves. We move around. Also in schools, there are teachers, yes. KCPE, KCSE, many people with disabilities do not pass. The reason being, the teachers keep changing, and for us, communication is a challenge. We are not even able to get into universities. We must have an interpreter, and sometimes the interpreter is not available. We are not even able to understand some of the lessons. So there's a lot of challenges. Even communicating with the society. How do we communicate with them? We use sign. So it's hard to socialize. Yes, we want to socialize with you, but how do we socialize? We want to give you the information we have. We want to be unified with you as a society, but we cannot. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Show them how to clap for the deaf.
Oh, yes. So this is how you clap for the deaf. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Could you give them a better clap again? Thank you very much. Allow me to call Gideon. Gideon, please come very quickly. 3 minutes. Only 3 minutes, please. Gideon is from Kibera. 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you. I will use the very little time. Good afternoon. Just to bring us together here, can we do a small exercise? It's very small. Can we remove our phones if we have, for those of us who have our phones, and now that Valentine is around the corner, it's on Sunday, just send a text message to someone your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your boyfriend, if you have your girlfriend, just tell them that you love them. Just that. Then you give me the responses after we finish. What they have replies itakuwa gani? Coming from Mombasa, at times it's very hard for me to speak like fluent English. I'm used to Swahili mostly, but I'll try anyway for the sake of those of us who are not from Kenya and probably do not know English. So my name is Gideon Mwakina from Kibera, and I come from an organization called DDAC, Disability Discovery Association of Kenya. And at DDAC, we realized true that people with disabilities had been left behind because of so many challenges that are there. There's so much stigma and there's so many things. But again, we say now we need to do something because we've been left behind. Yes, we've not been included in so many things, but we have to start from somewhere. And we identified 3 issues that we thought were important to us. And one of them is inclusivity, where we advocate for inclusivity of people with disability in all spaces, workspaces, discussions like this, political spaces, and other spaces that are relevant to people with disability, because we believe if people with disability are included in different spaces, then it is part of bridging the gap between the society, what the society thinks of people with disability, and what the truth is. That's why you had me the other day asking Prof if indeed at Daystar you have that inclusivity. Nilikuuliza swali kwa Kiswahili profesa na kaenda hivi lakini ninaelewa. It's something that is we are trying to agitate in case now you have spaces for hire, rather you have vacancies in your organization. We recommend that you at least, if a person with disability applies, maybe try and consider. And because we have so many challenges and our challenges are a bit different from other people in the society, we also recommend that if you're looking for example, somebody with a degree qualification, it is only fair for us if somebody has a diploma, same qualification, further the education, because with disabilities, and there are so many people who've wanted to further of constraints here and there that were beyond their control. So we recommend, if there's such an opportunity, kindly look into that issue. Then the other issue we are also advocating is awareness, because we believe for us to fit well in the society, then we need everybody else to know who's a person with disability, what they need, what they want, and how to treat a person with disability, because you might find somebody on the road maybe wanting to cross, and then unamwambia we kiwete, wacha so we are trying to create awareness so that we have that kuwe na uwiano kati ya jamii, kila mtu awe anaweza kumwelewa mwingine kupitia kwa njia kama hizo. Kwa hivyo ni muhimu sana wakati ambapo unawaona watu na ulemavu, labda tuendelee kujuzana, tuendelee kuelewezana pia kwamba huyu ni mtu kama wewe na anaweza akafanya kitu ambacho wewe unaweza kukifanya. What people with disability need is opportunity, really, not sympathy, not we don't need sympathy. We can do so much that we're even thinking of now starting to advocate for people with disability to be included in the discipline forces, because sio kila mahali ama sio kila mtu ambaye yuko kwa polisi, kwa jeshi, kwa prison, KWS ambaye anaenda vitani. we have accountants, we have human resource, we have people who can advise and give ideas that can even be ambazo zinaweza zikashinda kule vitani. So it's something that President Emeritus, we think we can advocate this, can help us do this to the policymakers so that in the next years, the recruiting process ikianza, we also have 1 or 2 for piloting people with disability in the discipline forces. Then from there, we can see how to go about it. The other thing we are doing, and the last, in conclusion, is that we are trying to create civic education on electoral issues, because we believe when there is violence, when there is electoral chaos, people with disability are mostly affected. People say maybe women and children, but in my view, if I was to rank them, I would say maybe children are most vulnerable, then people with disability, maybe women, number 3. So we are trying to create civic education coming from Kibera. You know how it does, or rather how it works when it comes to election. So we are trying to talk to the young people. We have a chat group we call Tubonge. Tubonge ni kikao ambacho tunaenda kwa vijana pale walipo, in their own spaces where they are. We have others who are chewing miraa kwa base pale. Tunaenda pale walipo and we talk to them, to women in saloons, to matatu conductors in their circle meetings. We talk to them from their own spaces where they are safe, where they feel comfortable, where they can express themselves freely. That's where we feel when we give that kind of sensitization, or rather civic education, it sinks them deeper compared to an environment like this. I'm not saying this is a bad situation, but it's just an idea that we thought that it can be a good thing. Okay, on the issues of we also request that because we've had katika in your group, Mr. Ken, you have young women wing, you have youth wing. We also request that we be given the disability wing in the Great Lakes region, so that we champion our issues and as a region now, because kuna watu wengi ambao wana issues ambazo zinawahusu, na ingekuwa bora zaidi kama zingeshughulikiwa kutoka chini zikienda juu, ama pia kutoka juu kuja chini, itakuwa yote ni bora. Mwisho kabisa nikimaliza, I will just like to give an advice to fellow young men and women that now that kwa sababu wewe ni kijana haimaanishi sasa kuna vitu vitakuja tu kwa sababu wewe ni kijana. Being a young person is not an opportunity by itself. You need to wake up, find them, and all will be well. Finishing, namsema kwamba disability is not inability. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Gideon. Can we give him a better clap for a better clap? Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to see if I can bring in somebody who's online. That is from Oxfam International, Mr. Martin Namasaka. If you could easily come in. I don't know if you can get me. Martin, is he online to give a presentation? Is he online, Martin?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you, Martin. We give you the floor, please. That is Martin Namasaka from Oxfam International. Martin, you have the floor. Thank you. He's going into another meeting, and we felt that we can easily tap from him because he was to present at 12. But you know what happens when you start late. So you run the program late. Martin, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I shared my presentation yesterday. I don't know if anyone, I can try and project that. So let me just try and do that now, if it will help. Okay. So my name is Martin Namasaka. So I support Oxfam in media, comms, advocacy, and also influencing in the region. And the presentation today is about, for my end, is on the role of development partners in supporting youth, peace and security. Just a brief background on what Oxfam in Horn East and Central Africa is doing is we are working we're focusing on programs in 10 countries. So that is Burundi, DRC, Congo, then there's Ethiopia, there's Kenya, there's Rwanda, South Sudan, Somalia, Sudan, Tanzania, and Uganda. And some of the areas that we work in are on tackling inequalities around civic space, gender justice, fiscal justice, urban programming, and also climate change. And then we also work on transforming conflicts and crisis. Which is largely on conflict transformation, social protection, security, and safety and localization. And our work on peace and security falls largely under transforming conflicts and crisis. In regards to the focus of the presentation today, so I'll just move to the next slide. So what's the role of development partners such as Oxfam in supporting youth on peace and security? One of the key things that I believe, besides Oxfam, that development partners should do is to try and invest in young people's capacities, agency, and leadership through substantial funding support, network building, and capacity strengthening, recognizing the full diversity of the youth and their ways, the ways that the young people actually organize. And at Oxfam, the way we've been trying to provide capacity in strengthening just capacity building to youth engagement in conflict and peace building has been around ensuring youth can be able to participate in conflict analysis, gender, power, to map out youth engagement in public sphere and security issues. So that's something that we've been trying to focus on. And also promoting the effectiveness and existence of youth-led civil society organizations that are working on peace and security. We've seen quite a lot of young people who are setting up civil society organizations. So we've been trying to help in institutional strengthening. And then we've also been trying to build the capacity of the youth to influence, just digital influencing, and also advocacy for policy, for formulation and implementation of sustainable policies and frameworks. The other thing is we've been helping the youth on in regards to capacity building is how they can be able to things like organizing dialogues and forums that are much more impactful between the youth and peace and security axes. And the other thing is trying to encourage just building capacity of local leaders on inclusive policy making with youth engagement in peace and security. So around capacity building, okay, I would say when it comes to Oxfam and maybe other development organizations, there are certain key things that we have been putting in consideration when we're engaging in capacity building for youth in peace and security. So one of that has been, are we able to build their capacity to self-organize? And when I talk about self-organizing, I mean improved understanding. Do they have an improved understanding of regulatory frameworks, institutional governance, things like resource mobilization, management models, and also things like how do they even do their human resources? So that has been one of the things that we've been considering. And then the second thing has been their capacities to act. I remember yesterday from the conversations that we had, whereby we mentioned there's one of the participants mentioned that 2 billion is lost in a day in Kenya, and but what are we doing about it? So one of the things, well, in regards to capacity building that we've been focusing on is building capacities for the youth to act, and this includes capacities to operate as well as capacities to demand public accountability and responsive public policies. The other third thing that we've been focusing on in regards to capacity building has been the capacities for the youth to learn, so that we can ensure the youth CSOs, the ones that have been set up by the youth, specifically the youth-led civil society organizations, are more adaptable to changes in the environment, and therefore they become more resilient. Of using new technology, digital influencing, even with the evolution of COVID, we see that as really fundamental, particularly among young people and other vulnerable groups as part of accountability and advocacy initiatives. Young people are really big on digital media. So digital influencing and advocacy has been something that we've been trying to push. So besides capacity building, second, in regards to the role of development organizations in supporting the youth on peace and security, we also have funding as a key component as our role as development organization, funding support. But when it comes to funding, the key thing that we need to think about as development organizations is to provide flexible funding, because some of the funding that we have is really is not very flexible. So we have to provide flexible funding designed with specific needs of youth organizations in mind. And then we have to prioritize, as part of any funding support to youth organizations, the building of organizational capacities to increase their financial sustainability and the impact of their work. So we have to think when you're providing funding support, are we leaving this, when the funding ends, are we leaving these youth-led civil society organizations in a better place to be able to sustain the organizations? It might be even in regards of institutional strengthening. Do they have all the systems in place? So we have to think about some of these things. And then the third thing, besides capacity building and funding support, that should be our role as development organizations, is to address the violence of exclusion. And what do I mean by addressing the violence of exclusion? So we have to think about how we can adopt and support the use of quotas for the direct and gender equitable participation of young people in all phases of formal peace and political transition processes. Yesterday in the meeting, I had one of the youth, I remember, who was from the LGBTQ community, and she really touched on these on issues of exclusion. So while we are as development organizations, we have to think about how do we ensure there's full participation of all these special groups. Second, when you're talking about the issue about addressing the violence of exclusion, what we have to think about is to prioritize opportunities for young refugees, internally displaced persons, migrants, and young people from host communities to be able to share their peace and security challenges. So we have to think about those people who are displaced, people who are refugees, for instance, so that they can be able to share their challenges, so that we can be able to support them also. And then we also have to think, when you're talking about addressing the violence of exclusion, we have to think, our role as development organizations is we have to think about expanding digital networks to remote communities so that they can be able to support meaningful and inclusive participation of young people in peace and security issues. So the last thing in regards to our role as development organization is to, in supporting peace, in supporting youth on peace and security, is we have to think about how we can be able to foster national, regional, and global partnerships for youth and peace and security. So as Oxfam, one of the key things that has been our plan in our new strategy is to try and foster transformative partnerships. So how do we get to work work with youth-led organizations so that they can be able to promote, to sustain peace in the region? So that's something that we've been working on, and I feel it's the role of other development organizations to try and foster, to help with these youth-led organizations, get into partnerships with them also. So transformative partnership is one of the key things that we are also pushing as Oxfam, and I believe it's also other development organizations to think about. So our work as Oxfam in the region in regards to promoting peace and security are just areas that we've been able to work with the youth has included things like youth programming. So we've been strengthening youth programming in Ethiopia, whereby we've been empowering the youth to build their economies and to reduce their impacts of perpetuating conflict and peace. So we've done that in Ethiopia and also in Somalia. And then we've also been doing some work on youth empowerment. So that has been in Uganda, where we've been working with marginalized communities to equip them with the necessary skills and capital to improve their well-being, which indirectly reduces the risk of youth in venturing in illegal acts, including conflicts and security. And then we've also been doing a lot of work with young women so that they can be able to participate in political processes. And this we've done a lot in Somalia. And then we've been expanding access to justice for youth who have been marginalized, for them to be able to access, especially in Somalia also, so for them to be able to access fair justice and have their voices to be heard. Then there's a new program that we have been, this pretty much on the nexus, that we've been trying to work on, and it's basically focused on the grand bargain or the localization agenda, where we've been working with active civil society organizations and to jointly implement programs aimed at conducting to curb negative impacts of insurgencies in Somalia, thereby reducing the risk and impacts of conflicts in Somalia. Then the other thing that we've also been doing is we've been providing financial support, for instance, for refugees who have been living in South Sudan, for them to try and transition back to their host to their countries, not their host countries. So those young refugees that have been moving as a result of conflict from South Sudan and have been living in Sudan, we've been trying to reintegrate them back into society. And also in South Sudan, we've provided advocacy and financial support for civil society participation and influencing in relation to the peace process. So Sudan has been going through a peace process agreement, and we've pushed for the youth to be involved in this peace processes, whereby we've actually been advocating and influencing for a 35% quota of young women to be included in the representation in all government institutions at national and also at state level. The last thing that we've been doing as Oxfam has been also working with youth-led organizations or activists. And recently we supported the annual YouLead Summit. So YouLead Summit is it's actually East Africa's largest forum of young leaders, mentors, government officials, and youth organizations representatives from all the 6 EAC partner states. And some of the potential areas that we are keen to support, to continue our engagement with YouLead and other, not just YouLead only, but other youth-led civil society organizations, is on areas such as capacity building for young peace builders, e.g. on digital influencing, advocacy, and implementation of the UNHCR 2250 resolution. Then the second thing also that we are keen on potential collaborations with youth-led civil society organizations working on peace and security is on peer-to-peer roundtable conversations for experience sharing on implementation of peace and conflict resolution. And then we also are very keen on double taxation agreements. So one of the things that we are keen also to do or to work with the youth is on tax justice in the region. So thank you so much, Kennedy, for the opportunity. I believe these conversations and the actions set forward are quite critical for harnessing the demographic dividend in the continent, and also just meeting the objectives that have been set out in Agenda 2063 of the African Union. So to the youth, I always say, if not us, when? If not now, if not us, who? And if not now, when? And for the other development organizations that are working to support youth in the region, the key thing for them to note is that youth are not problems to be solved. Instead, they are actually strategic partners in promoting peace and security in the region. So we should take them seriously and give them the opportunity. So thanks a lot, Kennedy. So I'll take it back to you. And in case of any questions, I'll be happy to respond.
Can we give him a good Abata? Thank you so much, Martin, for your presentation. Allow me to see how the room is. Anybody with a question? That is a presentation from the development partners in what he has done. If somebody has an intervention in regard to a question, just raise up your hand. You'll be given the microphone. This row, the row this side. Anybody with a question? Fatima, then Gideon. Yeah. So I'll start with Fatima and then Gideon. Please, if you're asking a question, say you're asking a question. Don't give a presentation, please. A question goes with an end of a question mark. Yeah. If it doesn't have a question mark, just say it's a comment so that we know. Thank you.
Thank you so much. My name is Fatuma Aden. I work for the Life and Peace Institute. My question is, a lot of organizations or many development agencies are doing amazing work, but the work is scattered. It's all over. How can we centralize this and bring Oxfam is doing something, LPI is doing something, Save the Children is doing something, but it lacks the centrality of it and bringing closer for better coordination and knowing who's doing what, and how can we work towards promotion of youth in peace and security that will be achieved for the goal of all. So my question is, how can there be centrality among all the works that are being done by the different development partners?
Thank you very much, Fatma. I will not ask Martin to respond to that. It will be part of the group discussion, and you'll be the one leading that group discussion. Thank you. Next. So Fatma, you have an activity in the afternoon. You will have your team. You are in which country? When you are having the team there?
Kenya.
Kenya. Yes, your team Kenya must give us the response before close of business today. Thank you.
All right, my question is, how do we engage Oxfam as young people on the ideas we have on issues to do with the election, the upcoming elections, in terms of engagement with you?
Thank you, Gideon. You in which team?
Rwanda.
Huh?
Rwanda.
Rwanda, please. You have another group to respond to the strategy on how you are going to engage Oxfam and the development partners. I'm not asking Martin to respond to that. Rwanda, you have an exercise before end of day to give us a strategy on how you are going to engage the development partners. You know, we must be proactive, not just setting questions. Huh?
Thanks for the opportunity. My question is in regard to building the capacity of young people. I would like to know how development partners are helping young people and civil youth serving organizations to understand public policy processes, because I feel it's a very important thing. Thank you.
What's your name?
Zebi from Tafiti Sera.
From?
Tafiti Sera.
Which country are you in?
CR.
Yes, CR. You have an exercise before end of day. We need that. Thank you so much. Martin, let's leave you to go because I know you're moving into another meeting, but we have tasked these groups, that is Kenya, Rwanda, and CR, to come up with the strategy which they will present to you. Thank you very much. Any other question? Now you're fearing asking questions because you don't want assignments, really? No comment? Yes, please. A comment? Tell us your name and the country you are in when you're doing the presentations during the exercise.
Lynette, representing Rwanda. I just feel that more has to be done to support youth peace-led organizations. Most of them, I feel, are underfunded. So if we really want to implement United Nations Security Resolution 2250, more has to be done by development partners to support youth peace-led organizations. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Rwanda, you already have strategies So you thank the team here in Rwanda. There.
Okay, Felix Kimboy from Youth Senate, but a student leader at the University of Nairobi. My question is that we know that the elites are the ones controlling the most of the nation's activities, but then how are these organizations going to engage university students and college students, because we know how rowdy they usually are, and how have they engaged them in matters peace up to the local ground? Thank you.
Thank you. How many are you from the university? Just raise up your hand. Those from the universities.
Universities?
Yes, raise up your hand. Now that will be a team leader. By end of day, you'll give us a strategy. Thank you very much. Then next, because any other, I think this should be the last person. You ask a question, and if it's a comment, you say it's a comment. And the question ends with the question mark. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mary-Liz Biuba. I was in the CAR group, and I have two questions. The first question is on intersectionality. How, even as we work on all these, issues to do with peace and security, how can we create an intersectionality where we say, even if we have a group of students who are lawyers, for instance, how do we incorporate all perspectives of what youth are so that we can be able to work on an issue to do with law that reflects everyone, or in any department that people are working on? That's my first question. And the second question, oftentimes when you have these programs come with specific, especially when countries have already either ratified or have signed to take commitment to, implement all these things. It comes with funding, but most of the time when youth are engaged on volunteer basis, where youth will provide time, services, expertise, and skills, but it's part of you contributing to this project. But essentially, the people who are delegating these duties to them, they don't also distribute the funds that are required. And we know, in as much as we say the unemployment is not the issue with young people, because young people have skills and all that, how then do we plan to provide a platform that young people can improve their lives if we work with them in projects, but we don't compensate the services they provide on the basis of we have an expert who will do research, but we don't consider the youth who is taking part in it as an expert. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary-Liz. You have in Central African Republic? Yes. Please organize Central African Republic and respond to that. Close of business. You are the one setting the questions when you're going to your group. Those countries, please ensure you discuss that, please. So, Martin, please kindly give your closing remarks and expect strategies from this team that have asked questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kennedy, and thanks, Fatma, Gideon, and all the youth that I've shared. There's two from Rwanda that I had your questions. The first one was, how can we work together? How do things around coordination and also trying to centralize? I know Kennedy had said that maybe I shouldn't answer that as part of group work, but I'll try and answer that. So it's always about partnerships and not trying to work in silos. And I believe that's part of the reason why Oxfam is heavily trying to be heavily engaged with young people and focusing more on transformative partnerships, where we can look at other organizations or other development organizations that are working in a similar space, so that we can share our plans. It's about being very deliberate on our annual plans and areas of work, and looking at partners who where we feel we cannot be able to contribute effectively or lack capacity. We can always work with another partner. So it's about having being open about our plans, whereby we don't take on everything, but we check with other partners who are able to deliver on something that we don't have the capacity, so that we can be able to complement each other, not look at each other as competitors. But it's always an issue of being very open about strategic partnerships. Second, so how do we engage Oxfam on the upcoming elections, such as civic space? I mentioned one of the priorities for Oxfam in the region is on tackling inequalities, and civic space is one of the things that we're working on. So we'll be keen. Our doors are open. Please, if you're working on civic space and it's an area that you have identified Oxfam is focusing on, yeah, our doors are quite open. So if you have any idea that's if you're self-organized and you have an idea that you thought through about the upcoming elections that you require support, we will be keen to look at that and carry on the conversations. And then the other thing is the other question that someone had, points that someone added, I don't think it was a question, about that more work has to be done. I agree on that more work has to be done in regards to supporting youth-led organizations, and so that they can be fully funded. The only call I will make on youth-led organizations is to ensure, let's say for instance, now I've openly told everyone in the room that we are focusing on tackling inequalities, and under tackling inequalities, one of the key areas that we are looking for partners on is on civic space, on gender justice, on fiscal justice, on urban programming, on climate change, and then on transforming conflicts. We have social protection, we have security, we have safety and localization, and also community participation. So if what I would call on for youth-led organizations that are looking for support, there are very many development organizations that will be willing to support, but it's good to always know their priorities. And every year, these development organizations are making their annual plans so that they can look for partners that they can work with to meet the objectives that they have set out for the year. So it always works out if a lot of it works out for those that have planned well, and that they know the priorities of this development organization, so that when you're looking for support, it fits in well with their priorities that they have set out for the year. So going an extra mile to know the priorities of this development organization, it will help for youth-led organizations to be funded. So I agree that it's maybe development organizations, that youth-led organizations are not really heavily funded. But I will call on youth-led organizations to know the priorities, to invest a lot of time to know the priorities of these development organizations in the year and the areas they are really supporting, so that by the time you're approaching them, it's very clear that your priorities or areas you need support are in line with what they are doing. So that's it, Kennedy, from my end. So thank you so much, everyone. And I'll be looking forward to the next steps forward, or action plans. And we'll be looking forward to connect again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Martin. On behalf of the organizers, we thank Oxfam for finding time to share with the young people. And I can see technology is working. And if we embrace technology, it will break all these bureaucratic barriers that we've always been talking about, Thank you so much, and God bless you. My regards to the Oxfam International team.
Thank you so much.
With that said, allow me to bring one segment, and I'm going to give the person 5 minutes. You heard Madam Nadia talk about the religious organizations, and I'll call on Pastor Ogo. You only have 5 minutes between us and lunch, and then after that, I'll call on Peter Kaunda to give a 5 minutes presentation on the role of university students. Please, Pastor Ogo, you have the floor. Millicent, hope you're not going away. No, now, please just come back. You make the presentation before Pastor Ogo is here. Come, we need you. Just come, don't worry. Millicent is from the Kenya National Committee on Genocide Prevention. And it's important for us to understand this issue because she can't come here and leave. I know she's a very busy lady in the Genocide Committee. Please, just make your presentation before you leave. Have you given to them?
Yes. My apologies for having to leave. Salam alaikum. Are we well? Thank you, Kennedy, and the Vice Chancellor, Daystar University. Sister, I think I saw you at the presentation the other day, and all participants and guests, all protocols observed. I am glad to be here. I'm representing our chair. There is a committee in this country that is not very much known. It has a very long name. It is called the Kenya National Committee on Genocide Prevention on Punishment and Prevention of Genocide, Crimes of Mass Atrocities, and Crimes Against Humanities. This is a committee that is actually localizing the ICGLR protocol and also is part of the membership team. We have a regional focal team that supports, there are 11 countries that signed the protocol. And the issue of genocide was very high on the agenda, having learned that people can really be brutal sometimes. And we have seen a recurrence right from the Holocaust time. Oftentimes people refer to Rwanda, but I think even in Kenya, we have seen cases where people just pick machetes and kill each other. My role today was to share with the groups from different affinity, groups and also representatives about the work of this committee and why it is so important for the youth to get involved in what we call upstream, midstream, and downstream prevention of genocide. Because youth are packaged as the perpetrators, but we also have realized that actually are not just the ones going to war. No, of course, they could even be victims of circumstances. Systems have been used to entangle the youth and also to lure them to get engaged in atrocity crimes. And if I come down to Kenya and the discourse around the building bridges, I think if you look at what we call the Amendment Bill 2020, you will see that electoral-related crimes have been stipulated and highlighted there that if you get involved in electoral-related crimes, this time there will be no people getting away. You will actually go to jail whether a politician gave you money or not. You will carry your own cross. So I take this opportunity to highlight the available frameworks and the legal bills that speak void somewhere. Coming back to the work of the committee, our role really is to contribute to strengthening the conflict early warning system and mechanisms that we have in this country, and also share the information with our neighboring countries. In the early warning systems, we have the IGAD that has the C1 system that supports that part of the world, but we also have the East African community that also has their situation room that provides early warning. As a committee, we work very closely with the NCIC because they monitor the hate speech and discrimination issues. We also work with the National Steering Committee on Peace Building and Conflict Management under the Ministry of Interior. We also try to see how do we engage the youth and other groups to be able to provide timely information in a manner that it can lead to response. And that brings on board the work with the National Police, the IEBC, and the others. So the committee was privileged even in the last elections to hold high-level meetings supported by the office in New York and a responsibility to protect. What we are trying to say is that we have the Rome Statutes, we have all these big things, including Resolution 2250, that has the 5 pillars. Our role as a committee is to see how those feed into strengthening our local mechanism to develop our capacity to prevent rather than be reactive when conflict and crimes of atrocities happen. And as briefed by Kennedy, I was told to do what we call an inoculation, just an appetizer of what we do. The early warning information we get not only contribute to the alerts, but we also conduct research. Like as we speak, we are doing a research on identity-based conflicts. How do they show up? Is it about resources? Or is it about leadership struggle? Or is it because of historical injustices that have never been addressed? And as roots, where do you find your place in this? The committee has been working alongside youth because we are anchored under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Madam Nancy was here. But we work together with Madam Nancy. I represent the civil society. So it's a community of different, so we have civil society, we have the government, we have the faith-based organizations, and we have, of course, ICGLR that also links us then to the regional level happenings. And so as we think around research, and we are soon publishing the identity-based conflict do also networking and trying to contribute to building the peaceableness of our communities with a strong component of punishment, which our government sometimes don't want us to talk about because people don't want to be held accountable. Accountability starts with you. So let us be responsible enough to share information. As I conclude, there was a question about how do you use the university students. The Kenya National Committee has the Youth Pact. I don't know how many people here from Kenya know about Youth Pact. The University Students Association for Peace in Kenya. There is an association that brings together more than 74 universities, as far as I know, in Kenya. They recently even set up an investment wing that enables students to contribute their shares so that they can already start building wealth and become employers. More details on those things, I think I can probably share with Ken. If somebody is interested, we can provide that. We also have the Uyano platform. Somebody was talking about collaboration. The Kenya National Committee on Prevention of Genocide has been working very strongly to see that we have a coordinated approach, multi-sectoral. Because if you have early warning and no response, it's in vain, right? So you actually don't need it. But it needs to lead to response. And that response needs to lead to also tackling mental wellness, the state of mind. You can't talk about genocide without thinking how it affects the people, even just the thought of it. And I can go on and on, but please allow me to end it at that level and say, as youth, you are more energetic. But you have the power and the wherewithal to save your nations, to save your communities, and to serve them. I'm not talking about just voluntary work, but I'm saying that you can actually do. Some of us have been a peace builder for more than 20 years. It has been putting bread on my table. I went into it not because of bread and butter, but because I felt I needed to contribute. When you are called to contribute, and we may be knocking on some of your doors, as a committee, now I speak on behalf of my chair, and also as a country, as different entities at your county level, because we link with the users, committees exist in this nation. We want effective prevention. Everybody must come on board. And for participation, and not just participation, but meaningful participation that yields effective and positive results. We must just journey together. So my role today was just to inoculate you and let you know that the work of the committee continues. We are involved in awareness creation, we do research, and we engage with all those of goodwill that want to prevent atrocities, that want to see that discrimination ends, that contributes to stopping crimes against humanity. May God bless you. Have a lovely meeting. I'm sorry, I don't know whether I can take questions, but I know you are pressed for time, and my apologies for taking your time. God bless you all, and thank you very much.
Can we give me a very good Abacha? Thank you so much. So before we actually break for lunch, allow me to bring a very important person. That is Professor Laban Piairo from Daystar University, and students are majority have observed. So he's also handling students at Daystar, and he has the dons from to share this key presentation on the role of institutions of higher learning in actually ensuring that peace and security agenda is inculcated. Then after that, we shall break for lunch. And because he's a professor, he knows how to deal with you. Thank you very much. Professor, you have the... Can you give him a better clap? Abacha. Thank you. Thank you. Let me...
I'm really sorry about this. I would have wished us to go for lunch, then come, but I have another meeting at 3 o'clock, and we are already at 2 o'clock. So I just want to share, this is a youth forum. So Ken, I've tweaked this presentation to remove a lot of the research things and then try to walk towards the action plan. And I've gathered the feelings. I've been here, as they've said, since the other week. So we are going to pick the most prominent things that come through. I would like to advise the youth who are here that this is a very big opportunity. And sometimes opportunities come disguised as humus. I don't know whether you've heard of humus, mbolea. Ile wanatupa nyuma ya nyumba huko nyumbani. And that humus is the one that gives you the best of plants. So please take note of what's going on here and open up your mind. So towards an action plan for the ICGLR, and please move to the next slide. Is there somebody moving the slides? Yes. I want us just to reflect on this resolution 2250, because we are talking about it, and I noticed in Daystar there was a gap. This was adopted in the National Security Council in 2015, and is the first resolution fully dedicated to you, young women and men, in the maintenance and promotion of international peace and security. So that's why you are here. And the entry point into this resolution area is this participation we are in. So I think it is important for you to have this as background information. I've learned in life that when you have an opportunity like this, you punish yourself. You punish yourself to understand the context, then some opportunities just begin to pop out. Next slide. So what did this resolution say? The Security Council requested the Secretary General, listen, to carry out a progress study on the youth's positive contribution to peace processes and conflict resolution in order to recommend effective responses at local, national, regional, and international levels. The word to underline is study. To study the process, the progress, carry out a progress study and find out where can we position the youth so that they can help in pushing the agenda of peace at local, national, regional. And now here in this room, we're talking about our region. Although Kenya is a reference country, but we are talking about the 12 states in the Great Lakes region. So what have I said as a teacher? I've said this resolution is a United Nations Security Council resolution. 2015, now Kenya sits on that Security Council. 2015, still talking about youth problems. Maybe that's why we are here and want to hear your views. And they're coming through in these discussions. Now, if you go to the study, the process that this study is supposed to undertake is as important as the outcomes it will produce. So if you ever get a chance to work with some of you, this study will be inclusive and participatory. So this is your agenda. You'll be part of this. And it will involve consultations, looking at country case studies, focus group discussions in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Malawi, and drawing a survey-based mapping of the work done by you people in your various countries. So I'm trying to, what we call in research, to contextualize why we are sitting in this hall. Next. Although Resolution 2250 talks about youth, peace, and security, the key pillars are those ones: participation, protection, prevention, partnerships, and disengagement and reintegration. So when we are going to do this study, those are the variables around which we shall create some thinking and collect data around. But I want you to note something. This is about youth, peace, and security. And the only way you're going to tie up that nexus is through partnership, protection, prevention, participation, protection, prevention, partnerships, disengagement, and reintegration. But if you are an economist or a statistician like me, you already know that this is running towards the socio-economic well-being of the people of the region. I was brought up by a Jewish family when I was young, and the Jews have this cardinal rule that where there is no food, there is no Bible. So think about it. All this strife we have is about fighting for resources. And the fundamental resource is food. So when I'm grazing my cows and there's no water, I'll come, you'll want to steal them, then war starts. When we get diamonds and gold in Congo, DRC, the Chinese and the other people want to go and grab them. So war starts. So it's about resources. And towards the end of this, Kennedy, I'll surrender 5 minutes to one of my students who is also working in a very interesting area. And when you think about it, she's succeeding because of partnerships and disengagement with certain practices and reintegration. And that's what we are asking of you. So please don't sit here and of course enjoy the niceties of a hotel like this one. Make sure you visit the washrooms. When you go for lunch, load your plate. I know when I was your age, I would load the plate and even forget. That time we were not really civil. Unaweka mchele, unaweka nyama, unaweka nini, alafu unaweka fruits, unaweka juu yake yote tu, because you don't want to take chances. By the time you come back, it is gone. But our motive here is different because I can see you are a serious group of young people. Next, why? The next slide, please. Are we resonating? We are not. No, you're too far behind. Move on. We finished with those. Yes, why Daystar? And I could say, why Nairobi University? Why Strathmore? Given the challenge, young people's increasing distrust in their governments. Many of you here are very, very, very discontented with your governments and even the multilateral system. It is essential to work with credible organizations such as Daystar, Strathmore, Kenyatta University, like that, with strong trust-based relationships with the youth on the ground. I have learned something in life. Trustworthiness is critical. And if you are touching young people and you want to rally them towards a certain cause, they must trust you. Otherwise, you lose the agenda. Next. Very quickly, we want to move fast because people... I just want to pick this context. This is a slide I've used before. The average East African, the average Great Lakes region citizen is 19 years old. 75% of the population is under the age of 35. That is you. And the youth population is bulging, posing many challenges on access to opportunities, representation, and participation. And when these opportunities disappear, then there is war, then there is no peace. That's what I'm implying. Next. Kenya, next slide. Kenya, our population will be 100 million by 2050. That's not too far away. And the Kenyans aged between 15 and 24, the population is supposed to double to about 17 million. Kenya has been experiencing a very sustained growth. And let's give credit from the Kibaki era. He did great things. But I keep using this word GDP, and I was asking myself last night, what is this GDP? We say our GDP averaged 5.7%, although now it is 1.6. And Kenya has this, one of the highest GDPs. Now, what is this GDP? Since I'm talking to you, allow me just to flash 3 slides on what GDP is. So that you're not also just going to mimic GDP and you really don't know what GDP is. Okay. Gross domestic product is the market value of all goods and services produced within a country in a given period of time. Usually a year, or even in 3 months. So I'm trying to bring out some argument. When all of us go and buy anything, that thing is labeled made in China. That already tells you your GDP is receding into oblivion because you are not producing, you are not exporting. So I want you to note this. What if a country's GDP is not good enough? That just means if a country is not able to generate goods and services, then you are brewing trouble, insecurity, and no peace. The next slide. Scroll that. Just scroll it. Keep. Enter. Yes. Now, GDP is the total spending, the components. When somebody talks of GDP, and I want you to be brilliant young people because you're going to do a lot of these studies around the region, God willing, it is about consumption. So do you see how much of your wealth is given to Safaricom? That is consumption. Do you know where I come from? I come from a farming area in Kitale, Kakamega Kitale area. Farmers are not buying fertilizer to put in their farms, but they're buying airtime. And therefore, they're not producing. Investment, and without bias. Do you see? That's why I believe in diversity, Ken. I am so excited. I was so excited when the Asian community was made. Was it the 40-something tribe of Kenya? Yes, it is in diversity that we are strong. Look at the Somali ethnic group, how much they are doing towards the economy of this country. You know, it's all about investment and production. It's not about your tribe. Yeah. So when we talk about our GDP, we are talking about poverty. We are actually dancing around this concept of poverty. And then it rotates around government purchases. Just, you know, the biggest buyer in a country is the government. Even these things you hear, devolution, money is coming from the taxes, and it goes to the counties, and the counties are buying and creating employment. They are expanding the GDP, and then the net exports. And Kenya has gone down in net exports. Somebody has said that Rwanda is doing very well. I'm going to show you some slides. It is doing very well. It's a progressive country, what. But the GDP is very low. It's very, very low. It's on the ground. So, my friends, if you are, wherever you are, I'm the vice chancellor. I stay in Athi River, I have a house there. And I got into a house and they gave me a house with 1 acre. I said, my God, I have a chance to do something to the GDP of this country. So I put up a chicken rearing place, and I'm rearing chicken. I started with 9. Now I have about 70. I am producing something. COVID should have taught you something. You must be able to produce. You must be able to invest. Then you're contributing to the GDP of this country. Now, forget about that statistics. That is a regression equation. We can do regression analysis. We can know which variable is strong, but that we shall do when we are doing these studies. Go to the next slide. But this is interesting, and I would like somebody who's good at reading in English. I don't know whether there's anybody. Please volunteer. Yeah, thank you. Read for me what Senator Robert Kennedy said in 1968. Okay, please read it very well. Yes.
Does not allow for health.
No, you haven't started.
Which one? Gross domestic.
Yes, yes, that's where we are. Yes.
Gross domestic product does not allow for the health of our children, the quality of their education, or the joy of their play. It does not include the beauty of our poetry or the strength of our marriages, the intelligence of our public debate, or the integrity of our public officials. It measures neither our courage, nor our wisdom, nor our devotion to our country. It measures everything, in short, except that which makes life worthwhile. And it can tell us everything about America, except why we are proud that we are Americans.
Thank you. Let's clap for her. The only thing that Kennedy was wrong from what I've said is when he said it does not allow for the health of our children and the quality of their education. That is GDP dependent. But there are these other hidden nuances. But by the way, you cannot enjoy strong marriages. You cannot engage your mind intellectually. You cannot even enjoy poetry if your GDP is low. That's what we're saying. Next slide. So why do we care? Why do we care about GDP, young people? Having a large GDP enables a country to afford better schools, a clean environment, healthcare, etc. So many indicators of the quality of life are positively correlated with GDP. Yeah. So this struggle we have here about the youth is about very low GDP returns in the Great Lakes region. But look at a country like the Democratic Republic of Congo. I mean, it has so much in terms of production, but all that wealth is channeled out. So the GDP has remained poor. Next slide. So let me show you some of the things I'll say. Look at this. That is GDP and life expectancy in those countries. So life expectancy, you know, if you live in this Great Lakes region, I've taken Kenya as an example. If you reach 50 years, you are very lucky. Generally, you're supposed to die before that, generally speaking. So GDP is a function of life expectancy. And I want you to see where I'm going with this youth, peace, and security. So where there is insecurity, there's no production. And life expectancy will just go down because your GDP is very low. Next aspect, GDP and literacy. Literacy. I think the countries in the Great Lakes region, Kennedy, are trying in terms of literacy. In fact, Kenya is working towards 70%. But look at where the other countries are dancing. Do you see why? Do you see why we continue to dance on the periphery? That's what this is called, dancing on the periphery. Because people in the center are up there. That's where they're dancing. Again, the GDP you can see is very high. Look at a country like the US and the GDP. Then let us look at this one. GDP and internet usage. Now you see the divide. Yeah, you see the divide. Look at where we are. So this is the digital divide. And you can see even internet usage is the function of the GDP of a country. You go to a lot of universities in this country, I don't want to name them. Internet usage is almost zero. So during COVID, no learning was going on. That speaks volumes. Now, very quickly move on. So despite Kenya's economic growth, we know that 70% live in poverty. Our GDP is down. And women, youth, women and girls, persons with disabilities, and those living in historically marginalized areas, particularly the ASAL areas, experience a lot of hardships. And Kenya, I'm using Kenya, I could use Southern Sudan or any other country. We know our situation in Mandera today. Learning is a story there. It sees to be, and poverty is multi-dimensional. It's not just money in the pocket. It's about education, it's about health services, it's about security. So we have that issue. Then we now have the impact of COVID. Impact of COVID. And this is an area, a thematic area. It has come through our workshops. We must trace it as a variable of study, the impact of COVID in the Great Lakes region. So things have become very bad. Next. Move to the next slide. The other one is tackling stereotypes. Somebody has mentioned it. And I brought this up because I also had it in this the other day. There's a lady who articulated this very well. Stereotypes. Now, through literature review, many young men and women have said that interests, identities, and experiences as young people were inseparable from their stake in development, in exercise of human rights, in gender, differentiated needs, and experiences of conflict and violence. But in an increasingly globalized world, shaped by pervasive concerns about terrorism, organized transnational crime, and extremist violence, perspectives on youth are distorted by contagious stereotypes that associate young people with violence. And again, this is a big dilemma. Just tackling the stereotype and policy myths. So what do we do in Kenya? We say now in Kiganjo, last year we took 10,000. This year we're going to take 20,000, train more policemen. That's what I'm calling a policy myth. A country will never be stable because you have more policemen. There are other attributes that we have to chase as a country. The next one, next slide. So I think, and allow me to read this, I don't like reading text, but the overarching consequence of these negative stereotypes is that they contribute to the marginalization and stigmatization of youth by framing young people as a problem to be solved and a threat to be contained. Yes, that to me, I found this very strong, very powerful. They are a problem. They are a threat to be contained, a problem to be solved. That's why we have kazi kwa vijana. That's why we have, what is that called? Pesa sijui what. You know, it's a problem to be solved, but it is not conceptualized. It is not based on evidence. There are no interventions that are done before that, but contain them. Unfortunately, you can't sustain it. Moreover, these myths and assumptions have fueled policy panic. So even before you do the research, you hear a policy has come out. It is these myths that are accelerating this policy panic, particularly as it relates to the youth bulge, youth migration, and violent extremism. So we panic. You know, when we say Mombasa ni nini? Mombasa sio? Sijui pwani sio? Provincial commission, regional commission, to go and contain them. Next slide. Youth for Peace. I think my thesis is this, as a researcher. In the absence of meaningful opportunities to participate socially, politically, and economically, marginalized young people are strikingly creative in forging alternative places of belonging and meaning through which to express themselves. That's my thesis. So we must find alternatives, not to contain them, no, but give them alternatives so that they can overcome the marginalization, political, economic, social, and so on. So what are these things I'm asking? And I'll not go through all this. Next. So what am I saying when I say to address the violence of exclusion from marginalization? And we have political inclusion. %25% of the population, my friend. So let us not glorify that, oh, you see, Nadia is here, but how many Nadias are in parliament? That's what I'm saying. There is economic inclusion. Engage them. And those the details will go in another time. Education is the biggest neutralizer. Next slide. Gender. No, not that one. Gender. There's a slide. Yeah, gender. Then there is injustice and human rights. And there is disengagement and reintegration, where there's been war. Try to disengage and then integrate them into society. So what are we saying under 2250? We are saying we want to move from a demographic dividend How do we do it? In our action plans that we want to create, investing in young people's capacities. I became a principal of a school at the age of 28. So I know what happens when you give a young person an opportunity. Transforming the systems. I talked about supporting networks and youth systems. If you had strong networks, we could have 50% of this parliament being run by the youth. The MCS in this country, 80% would be the youth. And then prioritizing partnerships and collaborative action. That's why I'm hoping you're not here drifting through this process. I hope you're listening to Oxford to save the what? The children. You are out there, this Horn of Africa. You're listening for something, because these are the partnerships, these are the collaborative aspects. So again, to my famous slide, and this one, we saw it the other day, we saw it in Sunshine. Just click on it up to the end. I want you to deliberate on this yourself and ask yourself, what is this all about? Is it about unemployment or unemployability? Just think about it. What is this all about? By the way, if you go to the Mashinani, you know, Kiambu is very lucky. There's a county called Kiambu County. Kiambu County has a market of almost 3 million people. So in Kiambu, you don't need even an acre of land. You need even a quarter. You need even an eighth. If you have an eighth, Because Kiambu must produce enough eggs to feed Nairobi. Kiambu must produce enough milk and enough of everything because of its locality. I'm trying to say this. Would we have unemployment or unemployability in a county like Kiambu? Just think about it. And I want to juggle your mind. My hypothesis again is this. Apart from the skills, retooling you and bringing out the gaps. Next slide. I am saying these are the 10 employability skills which most employers are looking for today. I can give you a job as a shamba boy, and you tell me, no, I have a degree, I cannot be a shamba boy. But you know, when you're a good shamba boy, soon I will say, can you start running my errands to the bank to that because you are educated? And then after that, I'll say, but I'm the vice chancellor. There is a job in the stores. Can you go there and get that job? But you need these attributes to enhance your employability. They look obvious, but they are too important. So where you are, ask yourself, what is my level of perseverance? How about my self-belief? What is my level of humility? I'm a graduate. Yes. But what is my level of humility? How about positivity, that things will become better? How innovative are you? How about your communication? And my friend there, thank you very much for, in fact, by the way, I've gone to some parts of this country, and when I want to start to speak, they tell me, Professor, you are a very important person, so don't speak in Kiswahili, speak in English. That if you speak in Kiswahili, you will not be quite respected. So I'm glad that you love Kiswahili, but I'm asking this, masterful communication. Why do people listen to Patrick Lumumba? Communication. Yeah. Is he a Bantu? No. But his Kiswahili is excellent. Because Patrick Lumumba was in Pumwani Secondary School when I was in Upper Hill. I came from Kibera, I came from Landmawe. So sisi kuongea Kiswahili ilikuwa ni kawaida. So I can switch to Kiswahili and I'm at home. And some of you can't even switch to your mother tongue. And you take pride in that. You say, me, even my own children, they say, this language. Masterful communication. Collaboration. Passion for quality. I don't know whether you have noticed the CEO of this organization. His passion for quality. The things he does, if you're very careful, you see he wants things almost put at the most level of perfection. How about personal excellence? So wengine tulikuja kwa hii washa, tumealikwa, tumekuja, lakini hata kuamka asubuhi utafute shati, upige pasi, uangalie tai, iko sawa. Na uombe Mungu, nikienda kwa hiyo washa nikutana na vice chancellor nione, angalau roho yake izunguke na yangu pamoja. Unakaa kando. Unaogopa. George, I'm not talking about you, And your sense of independence. What am I saying? That's why Ugandans have a problem with Kenyans. Wanasema hawa Kenya ni watu wagumu sana kwa tabia. Watanzania wakiongea na wewe wanasema naomba unisaidie. Tafadhali nimepotea. Angalau unaweza kunielekeza Dar es Salaam iko wapi? Hapa Kenya mtu anakuambia what are you saying? Where are you going? Yeah. And in that process you're losing something. You're losing something. I wish I could say this better. I wish I could say this better. In this area of employability, these soft skills come to the surface. So move very quickly. I'll jump all those, go to visioning into the future for our Great Lakes Region initiative. Just jump through all that. It's all about employability, jump, yes. Visioning into the future. I'm looking at the future, and all of us in this initiative, go to this slide. If you go to Daystar, those ones look like my students. If you go to Jomo Kenyatta, the same. If you go to Kenya Polytechnic, the same. If you go to Alliance High School, if you go to Mbale High School, if you go to Tana River High School, you find these people. The same. So again, Kennedy, when we talk about youth empowerment, let us know the kind of youth we are dealing with. Most of these people here, 2/3 of the world's internet users are under 35. It is the same even in the Great Lakes region. We might not be at 35 because of our GDP, but we have a cohort of young people who are IT savvy. So as we look for empowerment, we must be looking at the whole continuum, from the one with a primary education, but also think of the graduates up there. How do you fit them into the labor market? Don't cluster everybody and say they can't do, or they must go into TVET systems. That's what I'm arguing. So if you go to the next, I want us to aspire, particularly all of you sitting here. Can you climb that pyramid in your thinking and go above routine work? I'm not saying routine work is bad, but I'm saying those of you who have had an education, then you must walk into the 21st century and do creative work, do research, do development, do design, do marketing, do sales, do global supply chain management, and other things, so that we can stop dancing on the periphery. Yeah, because you are the hope of the Great Lakes region. So we must have many of you going into that area and fighting for space with the Chinese, with the Americans, with the Germans, and everybody else. And the next slide just tells us, even as we think about unemployment, as we think about youth, peace, security, and then we go into partnerships, protection, and unemployment, all those things of employment, just remember, we don't want to remain in this area of less developed nations. We also want to move on this trajectory and get into the area of more developed nations, where there are flat structures, there are fluid scales, and things are based on competition and quality and technology and all that. That's my thinking as I talk to you. Now, next slide. In 1959, that sounds a long time ago, published an article entitled "On the Meaning of Alienation." Alienation. In fact, what we are dealing with here in this ICGLR is alienation of the youth. alienation. According to him, these 5 elements are fundamental to 3 factors that are relevant to alienation, namely loss of control over work and product. That's what the young people are facing. Lack of integration within society or large structures, and a low level of accessibility to reward values. By the way, that is very painful. When you have a low level of accessibility to reward values, even for us grown-ups, when you walk into your house and you look at your sofa set, the couch, some of you don't know what a sofa set is, the couch. When you look at the couch, your couch, and then you walk into your other friend's house and you find he has a leather seat, very comfortable leather seat. I think, I don't know how many inch, 48 or 69 flat screen TV. Then you get into your pigeonhole and there's this 1 or 2 couch, it is worn out. There's a small TV. Okay, it's colored, but it is 17 inch or something like that. That's what I'm calling low level of accessibility to reward values. That's what I'm saying. And Seaman maintained that the objective alienation in society eventually leads to 5 social psychological phenomena. And this is where our youth are. They feel powerless. Yes. And that refers to an individual's perception that he or she does not have complete control of his behavior. They are powerless. That's why 500 shillings is thrown at them and all kinds of things are told. There is normlessness in alienation. And this is the perception that socially unacceptable behavior is necessary for the attainment of specific goals. So crime, murder, all those things, that is having no norm. So your normlessness comes in. There is isolation among our young people, a tendency to attribute to convictions or ideals that are typically highly valued. So you are isolated. And those of us who have done psychology, I can see it on the Kenyan terrain. Isolationism, very, very dangerous. And then self-estrangement, a degree of dependence on specific forms of behavior for expected future consequences of behavior. Unajiondoa kabisa. Aidha unaanguka kwa pombe na hayo mambo mengine. And then there is meaninglessness. So that's the dilemma we are facing, even as we work on the action plan. I told our CEO the action plan, eventually we will do an action plan and involve these young people to validate. They say, yes, this one, yes, this one, yes. That's not, but we must do the conceptualization. What is the problem? So, you know, once people have, Kennedy, when people have been drifted into the psychosocial area, even material attempts will not change that situation. As people. So we like to reverse the fortune. And me, I think we need shared posterity with this action plan to actualize Resolution 2250. Then the Great Lake region will move forward. I love this photo. I love this picture. Aren't we beautiful? Yeah, beautiful picture. I love that picture. That looks like an Acholi girl or some girl from Southern Sudan. Peace is trust, not hatred. In other words, don't talk about peace and security if there is no trustworthiness. between us and the youth so that we can have shared prosperity. Thank you very much, and God bless you. I think because of time, just come. I want to introduce you, then in the afternoon, they squeeze a minute. Ken, sorry. Sophia, are you there? How are you? This lady is a student, one of my students in this, and she's from Germany, but she's doing unbelievable work in Korea land. Just in one sentence, and then in the afternoon, I hope you give her a chance so that the youth can listen to her. Go ahead. Thank you. She's usually nervous, so clap for her to encourage her.
Thank you, Professor. Yeah, so I have a small, I think I'll do it in the afternoon. But yeah, just a short introduction. My name is Antonia Sophia. I'm now 28 years old, and I'm the founder of an organization called Zenduka. And I have also founded, I'm just putting up a startup which is called Mikono. And I think I will tell you about both of them in the afternoon. Yes, I'm a student at Daystar. I'm studying community development, and I have first come to Kenya when I was 18 years old, which completely changed my life and my view of thinking, and it has given me a lot of opportunities. So thank you, Mr. VC, and yeah, I will share more in the afternoon. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sophia. First of all, let's give Professor Laban Airo a very hearty clap. Abata, 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 abata. Thank you so much, Professor Airo. These are the kind of papers that, as a young person, I really want to get it. Like, I just must have it and dive into it, you know. Then you can hear what Sophia Antonia is talking about. When Africans are saying there are no opportunities, Sophia lives Germany. Are you from Bonn, Berlin, where? Yeah. Yes, close to Frankfurt. Yeah. She lives all the way, crosses the seas, the lands, and lands in Kenya. And now she has something called Zenduka. In fact, when I looked at it, I said, okay, I think even the universities have a lot of work to reconstruct the software of the young people for them to see opportunities. Having said that, allow me to ask one of our own, and that is Dr. Chesang Laban, to make prayers for lunch. And I'm sure, where is Hortense? Hortense is giving mail cards, I believe. She will be at the door to give mail cards. Where we are going to second floor for lunch. Second floor where we took the group photos where the restaurant is. Did you have something? Yeah. Okay, just do before he prays.
Okay, attention.
Back after 45 minutes.
Yes.
45 minutes.
Yes, we come back after 45 minutes. Before I give my brother, Dr. Laban, to give thanks for the food, I would like to say that, please, if you've not registered on the list, maybe Faith, you can lift that list. Yes, please, if you've not registered on the list, please register and sign. Your signature is very important. Of course, there are those who we don't need you to sign. We know you. We've been working with you for the past, I don't know, quite a while. But it's important that you register and sign for accountability purposes. Right, give us your name. We'd like to also, engage with you. So kindly register and sign, and then get your meal card. Is that okay? Hiyo ni sawa tafadhali. Kama uja sign, tafadhali sign. If you've signed, just show us imesainiwa hapa, and you get your meal card. Otherwise, we are really thankful that you're here. We are happy that you're here, and we want to continue engaging with you. Dr. Laban, please.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I want to, before I pray, I want to thank everyone for your patience. You've really demonstrated a lot of patience in terms of the things you've covered up to this moment. And even as you go for a break, our Father, we want to thank you this afternoon. Thank you for the far you brought us this morning. We've learned a lot. We've shared together experiences, ideas to be able to improve the lives of the youth. We thank you for the fruitful engagement we've had since morning, and we look forward to even sharing more in the afternoon. And now as we break for lunch, we just want to pray that, Lord, you bless our time together as a fellowship over the meal. In Jesus' name I pray.